Welcome once again to the Certified Christian Life Coach Training. This is Module 4 of the training. I am Reverend Dr. Temilolu Aliu, and in this module, I will be teaching on the GROW model. The GROW model is a coaching framework that Christian life coaches can use in their coaching practice. This is the College of Christian Professionals and Researchers, a college of Brood Theological Seminary. So, as we discuss the GROW model, we are going to, you know, uh, give a general introduction to what this model looks like and how we can apply it for effective life coaching. We're also going to walk you through the GROW coaching process step by step. How do you apply this framework in your coaching practice? How do you apply this coaching technique as you meet with different clients? And finally, we'll look at how to apply the GROW model to various coaching scenarios. Now, this is going to be a very interesting topic because what you do generally as a life coach will rest on three things. Three things will make you a great coach. Number one, the professional techniques that you use, that is coaching techniques, coaching frameworks, coaching models. There are different names people call it, but they mean the same thing. When you hear coaching technique, coaching model, coaching framework, they generally mean the same thing. So the first thing that makes you a great coach are the coaching, models that you use. Then number two is your adherence to standard practice. How do you adhere to standard practice? The standard practices of the coaching profession, things like the use of powerful questions, things like allowing your clients to own their own process of growth. These are standard practices, things like confidentiality, empathy, respect, and all of these things. So the coaching techniques you use, the standard practices that you adhere to, and finally, powerful instinct. Instinct is one of the major tools that will make you a great coach. Your instinct. How refined are your instincts and how well do you put them to use? As people discuss with you, as they talk with you, sometimes by instinct you know how to channel the conversation. For instance, when to introduce scriptures, the right questions to ask, the right approach, to help each client. In the next module to this, we'll be discussing identity coaching, purpose discovery. See, sometimes uh, people who come to you do not come with the intention of, I want to discover my purpose. But along the line, you may discover, or they may not come with identity problems per se. But along the line, you may discover that some of the mindsets that they have stem from a lack of understanding of their identity in Christ. And you know that at that point, you need to introduce identity coaching. For some people, it is, lack of understanding of their purpose. Is trying to succeed at seven different things and is frustrated. By instinct, you know that what you need to help this person do is to narrow their focus. They are focusing on too many things. So by instinct, you know how to help this fellow. However, unlike counseling that will just go and say, you know what, with what you are doing, you need to narrow down your focus. In coaching, we don't do that. So instinct tells you what to do, but remember, we must adhere to the standard practice of coaching. How do you think you can be more effective? And then the person goes around different options, reduce the number of things I'm committed to, have more than 24 hours in a day, which obviously is impossible, but again, they explore different options. So Powerful instinct, standard practice, and professional techniques. These are the three things that will make you a great coach. Now, the grow model is a coaching technique. You can call it again a coaching technique, a coaching framework, or a coaching model. Who developed the grow technique? The growth technique was developed by Sir John Whitmore and his friends Alan Fine and Graham Alexander in the 1980s. Now, John Whitmore was the one who popularized this grow model. Sir John Whitmore, he was the one who popularized the grow model, but he developed it in the 1980s, in conjunction with his two friends, Alan Fine and Graham Alexander. He popularized the grow model through a book that he wrote, I think about 15 20 years after that, or so about 15 years after that, or so, was when he wrote the book. And it was at that time that the grow model became very popular, and today it is one of the most widely used coaching models worldwide. However, one very important thing that Sir John Whitmore said is that even dictators can use grow. So, grow model is a technique that must be used in conjunction with coaching skills and behaviors. Remember, we talked about standard practice the other time. Eh, The grow model itself is not coaching. That is not in itself coaching. It is just a framework that can assist you to carry out your duty as a coach. So dictators can use grow model, directors can use grow model, counselors can use grow model, life coaches can use grow model. So what makes it coaching is the techniques it is the skills and behaviors, the standard practice that you bring to the table. So I need you to understand this as we begin to explore and study the grow model. You must understand that grow in itself is not coaching. It is not a standard coaching practice. Coaches can use different models, can use different frameworks. So grow is just one of the many frameworks or models that you can use as a life coach. Meanwhile, several other people, dictators, counselors, directors, several other people can use, the grow model. The Bible says in First Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 11, it says, therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. Now, the grow model affords you the opportunity, to help people develop themselves, to build themselves up. It is a technique that helps you push people without necessarily, mounting pressure on them, without necessarily imposing on them. You push them to get better, to improve, and to achieve their goals. So, using this model of coaching is a fulfillment of the injunction of scriptures to encourage one another and to build one another up. The grow model enables you as a life coach to encourage your clients and, most importantly, to build them up, to help them become better, to help them achieve their goals, to help them become what they have set their hearts to become. Now, what is the GROW model? GROW is an acronym for goal, reality, options, and will. Goal, reality, options, and will. The GROW model starts with a question: what is the goal? We want to establish the end point. Where exactly are we going? So you want to establish the end point, the goal, the final point, the aspiration, the desire. You want to be clear where we are going. So the first step in the grow model is to establish the goal. In one of the previous models, we have talked about goal setting, right? So that becomes the first step of the grow model. Now, having established the goal, the next step of the goal model is to examine the reality. Examine the reality. What is the reality on ground? Where are we now? So, having established where we are going, the next thing is to establish what is happening now. Where are we now? What are the issues we are dealing with now? What is the prevailing situation now? How far are we from where we are going? So there are several questions that we will answer at this step of examining the reality. Once you have established the goal, you have examined the reality, then the next step is to explore the options. What are the options available? What are the steps we can take? What are the things we can do to get us from where we are to where we are going? So you have helped your client to establish their goal. You have examined the reality. Now you want to explore the options available to them. How do we move on from here? What are the things we can do? What is the way out? So you explore the different options, and then after that, you reach the final step of the growth framework: will. The question of what will you do? How are we going to execute? Out of these several options that we have explored, now the stage of exploration or options is what we call brainstorming. So when we have brainstormed, we have looked at the different options, the pros, the cons, how achievable are they, and all of that. Then we settle for an actionable plan. What will you do? It is at that step or at this stage that we begin execution. That is when we start taking steps towards the goal. So the grow model says you do not just establish a goal and then start thinking of what do I do to get there. No, you establish the goal, you examine the reality, you explore the options, and then you execute your will. Those are the first steps of the grow coaching model. Every life coach must be versed in this framework. There are several other frameworks, like I've mentioned. We will discuss some of them, but you will realize that many of them have great similarities with the grow model. The advantage, however, that the grow model has over many of these other models is that it is very simple. It's a simplified process, easy to execute. You are not at loss for what to do. There's no room for misinterpretation. The four steps of the grow model are very distinct, and it is clear how one step flows into the other. So every life coach, every Christian life coach particularly, must be versed in using this coaching framework. So now let's talk about goal. At this stage, the first step of the grow model, there are three things we want to achieve. First, we want to identify and clarify outcome, performance, and process goals. We discussed this extensively in one of those modules. What outcome are we looking for? What do you want to accomplish at the end of the day? Performance, what are the milestones that will increase your chances of accomplishing this outcome? And then process goals, what must you do to achieve these milestones? So we want to break down the goal from outcome to performance and then to process. Then beyond that, you want to help your client gain insight into their aims and aspirations. Beyond the goal, what exactly is the aim? Goal is what you want to achieve. Aim is why is it important to you? What is the bigger picture? So, for instance, you want to work for one of the biggest multinationals. At the end of the day, what is the aim? Why do you want that for yourself? Why is it important to you? What are your aspirations when you get there? What do you want to do with it? So you want to help your client clarify these things, and then you want to help them make their goals smart, specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time bound. Meanwhile, that a goal is smart is not enough. The goal must also be challenging and inspiring. When you look at your goal, does it inspire you? Does it challenge you? These are the things you want to help your clients to do at this step of the grow model. Once you have helped them to, establish their goal through this step, you can then move to the next step where they examine the reality. What is the current situation of things? What are the actions that they have taken so far? What have you tried to do? Which one worked? Which one did not work? The results of those actions, then the effects of those actions. If they worked, what was the effect? If they didn't work, what is the effect? Are you frustrated? Do you still have the motivation to try? Or you are at a point where you don't even want to try anymore? The result and the effects of past actions. Then the level of motivation. What challenges and obstacles do you see now? Because if you say you want to achieve something, at that moment you should also begin to examine the challenges that you can anticipate or that you see at the moment. So you want to start a business, but one of the challenges is you do not have capital. Now, that is reality. So once you have helped your client to establish their goal, you bring them back to reality so that you can now one of the major things that understanding reality does is it helps your client to understand the journey, because at the end of the day, the difference between reality and goal is a journey. What will it take for you to move from where you are to where you are going? If you don't establish the starting point and the finish point, you don't know how far you have to travel, and you cannot really tell what it will take to get there. That is why it is very important to help them, come to terms with reality. And once you have done this, then you go to brainstorming session, identifying possibilities, exploring alternatives, solutions, strategies. So what can you do? What more can you do? Are there alternatives? What options, are available to you? Are there any other options you can think of? So you explore alternatives, you identify the possibilities, the opportunities that you have, the pros and the cons. What makes this one desirable? What are the challenges with this one? So it's just brainstorming, and then flowing from there, you determine what must be done, what will be done. Sometimes when you get to this stage, you may adjust your initial goals, or you may help your client to adjust their initial goals. Again, it should not come from you. If that will happen, it must come from the client. So having looked at the reality, looked at the options on ground, your client can say, well, I think instead of this, why not let me focus on this, because it looks more realistic, it looks more achievable. So they can adjust initial goals, create an action plan. But again, while creating that action plan, it is good to preempt possible obstacles and immediately decide what will be done about them. Other things that must happen at this stage is to decide on support system. How do you want to keep the motivation up? A certain commitment. Is this what you really want to do? Because at the end of the day, again, they must own the process and to establish accountability. How often do you want to meet with me? Again, as the life coach, you do not decide that. The client must be the one to decide. I want us to meet every 2 weeks to evaluate again. Now, so you have established an accountability structure where every 2 weeks the person, comes around and then goes over how far they have come. Are there things they need to adjust, reviewing their action plan from time to time, and all of that. Now, at every stage of the grow model, you must understand how to use powerful questions, because the success of each stage of the grow framework relies largely on your ability to ask powerful and thought-provoking questions. In one of the previous modules, we have talked about this also. Powerful questions. For instance, at the stage of establishing goals, you can ask, what do you want? Or what are you trying to achieve? You can ask futuristic goals. What do you want to be remembered for? You know, that is a thought provoking question that can help your client to establish their goal. What do you want to remember? What do you want to be remembered for? At the stage of reality, what is happening at the moment? In fact, scaling is a good way to ask powerful questions when you are, at this stage of reality. On a scale of 1 to 10, if an ideal situation is 10, what number are you at now? And then you can begin to explore why they feel they are there and all of that. So someone says their goal is to reach the peak of their career and at the same time be a good wife and mother. So you can ask this person, on a scale of 1 to 10, if an ideal situation is 10, what number are you at now? And then the person says, well, I put myself at a 4. Then you ask, okay, why do you think you are there? So they are beginning to explore the reality on ground. What have you done so far? How have you tried to achieve this in the past 1 year? What have you done differently? And then you move to the stage of options. What steps could you take? What more can you do? What alternatives do you have? What ideas do you have? What opportunities are available to you? And then when you get to the stage of will, what will you do? Is there anything you need to put in place before you do that? What will it take for you to commit to this? How exactly will you do it? When will you do it? Do you think of anyone you can talk to, or can you think of anyone you could talk to? So you must know how to use powerful questions at each stage of executing the grow model. Let's do a case study. Someone who wants to start a business. So the goal is, I want to start a business. I want to start a multi-million dollar company. I want to start a franchise. Now, reality, I have no capital to start. Now, this case study is very simple, straightforward, but I need you to understand that in real life situations, things can get more complicated than this, where there are 3, 4, 5 things attached to the goal. The reality is multifaceted, and you have to look at options for maybe each cluster of realities and all of that. So, for someone who wants to start a business, I do not have capital, might be a reality. I have no knowledge about that line of business, can be another reality. So you can then see that there are different clusters of reality that you will need to explore one after the other. So as we go through this case study, please bear in mind that real life situations may be more complex than these. So reality, I have no capital to start. Now, what are the options available? What can I do? Talk to a friend who can partner with me so we do the business together. Take a loan from the bank, raise the capital through crowdfunding, or raise the capital from another business. So there are several options. Examine the different options, brainstorm, think through, and all of that, and then you now come to the point of what exactly is the best option here. So when you brainstorm, when you help the client to brainstorm on the different options, your client can then say, I think my best bet is to talk to a friend. He has the money, I have the expertise, we can become business partners. That seems to be my best bet. But if through the brainstorming session, you maybe the client has issues with partnering with this friend, trust issues or whatever it is, say, well, no, it's an option, but it's not my best bet. I think I'll rather take a loan. They may think through the loan option and say, well, the interest on the loan will be too much, and this business is not something that picks up too quickly, and then before the business will pick up and generate a lot of returns, the loan would have increased in interest and all of that. So I don't think taking a loan will be my best bet. How about use the little money I have to start a smaller business, and then as that business grows, uh, I keep saving to increase my capital, and then after a while I can diversify. So again, as you help them, through powerful questions, what can you do? What other alternatives do you have? What other options do you have? What else do you think you can do? What should you do? What do you think you need to do before you do that? So, for instance, I'll take a loan. Before you take a loan, what do you think? Is there anything you must do? What does it take for you to get a loan? I need collateral, but unfortunately, I have nothing I can use as collateral. Then that option is out. So, it is through brainstorming that you help your clients eventually decide on the way forward. Another case study: the goal, I want to have a consistent prayer life. Now, what is the reality? The reality is I have been trying to do this for the past 3 years, and every attempt has failed. At this point, I don't think I have the motivation to try anymore. I've experienced a lot of frustrations trying to do this, and I don't want to try anymore. But that may be the reality. Now, what options are available? Well, I can get a prayer partner so we pray together daily. I can move in with a friend that prays a lot. Maybe when I see him or see her pray regularly, then it can inspire me or motivate me to start praying too. I can read a book on prayer that can increase my hunger for prayer. These are different options, and then they begin to explore. Well, I can read a book, but in all honesty, I'm not that much of a reader. I really don't love books, so I may end up getting frustrated with my inability to be consistent with reading. Moving with a friend, well, I think I can do that, but I'm bothered. I may be a burden to my friend. I don't want to inconvenience anyone. So you look at the pros, you look at the cons, and eventually your client decides, okay, this is my best bet. In deciding what to do, sometimes you have plans and alternative plans. So, for instance, I'll talk to my friend if I can move in with him. But if he says no, then I'll consider, or I'll ask if he's willing to be my prayer partner. So maybe we can take it from there. So again, from goal to reality to options and then to will. Other models that you could consider: models of life coaching. The Oscar model was developed by Gilbert and Whittlesworth also in the 1980s. This model takes a slightly different approach from the grow model. I've decided to include these in the uh, module so that I'm not limiting you to the grow model alone. However, I think the grow model is simple and practicable. Now, Gilbert and Whittlesworth uh, were the ones who uh, developed the Oscar model. The Oscar model has 5 steps: outcomes, situation, choices, action, and review. Outcome, you want to understand the desired outcome and the person's long-term goals. So you ask them questions to help them establish that. You see that that is closely related to the first step of the grow model. Then you go to situation. Meanwhile, the Oscar model was developed in 2002. It's a more recent model. It's a more recent model. The clear model is closely related to it and was developed in the 1980s. We'll discuss that uh, still in this model. So the Oscar model was developed in 2002. Outcome, you want to understand, you want to help your client understand their desired outcome and long-term goals. What do they want to achieve? Close related to the goal step in the grow model. Then situation, close related to reality. You want to help the clients to you know explore their skills, their abilities, level of knowledge, how they feel, uh, options available, sorry, how they feel, things they have done, the results of the things they have done, the effects of the things they have done, and all of that. And then you move from there to the third step: choices, closely related again to options in the grow model. At this stage, you want to help them explore the options available for reaching their desired outcome. And then you move from that stage to the stage of action, identifying uh, the things they need to do, how best to make their goal happen based on the choices available to them. Again, that is closely related to the will, stage of the grow model. And then finally, review. Old regular reviews, we've talked about that too in the grow model. Accountability, you know regular reviews to ensure that the client is on track. So you realize that they are very similar, very, very similar. Another one is the clear model developed by Peter Hawkins. The clear model has 5 steps also. First step is contract. In other words, you want to agree on what you are working towards with the client. So the clear model sees the goal as a contract. In other words, this is why you and I are in this. This is what we are working towards. These are the terms of our interaction. I want to coach you to get here or to accomplish this. What is the desired outcome? But beyond that, the clear model says that the first step is not only about the goals, but also the scope and the expectations. What is the scope of our interaction? What are the expectations you have from me? What are the expectations I have from you? That is why it says that it is more of, establishing a contract. And then the next step is the step of listening, where the coach listens to the client. The only time the coach responds is when he wants to steer the conversation towards the topic under review. So, from what you have said, I understand this, and can you tell me more about that? So, the coach is just listening and then listening and listening and listening. And then the next stage is the stage of exploration. exploring in more detail how, the individual views the situation based on their current reality. So, how do you feel about it? Do you think you are able to do it? Why? What are the challenges that you see? So, that is more close related to reality. And beyond that reality, this stage of exploration also includes exploring the options available. So, it combines reality and options. What are the things you can do? How do we move from here? What options are available? So you also explore that. And then the next stage is the stage of action, where you get the client to commit to an actionable plan, steps to take, and then finally review, follow ups to assess how things are progressing, what worked well, what did not work well, what are we going to do about that, what alternatives will you consider. So you see that this is also quite related to the grow model, but again, more divergent than the Oscar model. And then we also have the stepper model created by Dr. Angus MacLeod. This stepper model focuses a lot on emotions. It focuses a lot on emotions and works through that to get people to their goal. So the first step of the stepper model is subject. Understand the context and the subject under discussion. Are we talking about time management? Are we talking about professional growth, spiritual growth, consistency in prayer? What exactly are we talking about? What's the subject here? And then next is target identification, to identify the target. What do you want to achieve in this area? This is where we can introduce, setting SMART goals. And then the next step is emotion. Now, again, subject and target, they are closely related to goal in the grow model. Emotion is more related to reality. Emotion. Understand the emotions associated with this goal. How are these emotions boosting or blocking progress towards the goal? How do you feel currently? Well, I feel frustrated. Now, that is a feeling that will block progress. So you explore emotions and you try, to work on that at that level. And then from that step, you move to the step of perception, where you begin to explore the bigger picture. How does this particular goal fit into the overall picture of the client's life? You are trying to get that to help work on their motivation, work on their emotions, to see how this is pivotal to their overall well-being, to their overall progress, to their overall life purpose. And then you move to the next step, plan. A series of steps that can help to reach the goal. That will include, establishing milestones and time scales. And then you read the final step, the step of amendment. So as you act on the plan that you have established, from time to time, you review the decisions made, understand what you have learned, whether the plan is sensible or needs to be amended, So you go through all of that. Again, it is closely related to the grow model, but at the end of the day, the grow model seems to be a very simple, straightforward, and workable model that every coach can use and that applies to virtually any situation. And that is why we would encourage that you work more with the growth framework. However, if you feel at home with any other model, or you encounter a situation where you think walking through emotions, for instance, is the way to go, then you can use, for instance, the stepper model or any other model that fits into the situation. Again, we come to the scripture I started with, First Thessalonians chapter 5 verse 11. Therefore, encourage one another and build one another up, just as you are doing. As a life coach, you have a noble aspiration. With the right techniques, which we have discussed, the grow model, for instance, or any other model, standard practice, powerful instincts, you will serve the Lord in your capacity as a life coach, encouraging people and building them up. And with that, we have come to the end of this module. I believe that you have learned a lot from it. Please let us know where you have listened from and what you have learned from this module. We'll look forward, to hearing from you, and I look forward to seeing you again in the next module. God bless you.